drier today, isn't it? Yeah. Horrible yesterday. Who went swimming yesterday? Come on, join us, everyone, all the way in now. Come on, I know the Olympics are over, but you can move faster than that. Thank you, well, here we are on Water Lane. Now, from here, I'll point out one or two places of interest. There on the corner is the bell tower. Now, the bell tower is the strongest and the oldest of the 13 towers that surround the inner wall, and it was built during the reign of Richard I, who was known as the Lionheart. But they call it the bell tower because in that white box on top there hangs a bell. It's not rocket science, please. Now, over the years, that tower has held important prisoners. The man for all seasons, Sir Thomas More, the author of Utopia, he was held a prisoner there, along with his good friend, John Fisher, the Bishop of Rochester. Both of those men had defied the king, and they would not accept Henry VIII as a supreme head of the church here in England. They would then spend 15 months there in intolerable conditions, but their spirits could not be broken. The next logical step for Henry was to break their bodies. So in July of 1535, they were taken from that tower, up through the jeering crowds and up to that scaffold side upon the hill. And it was there before a vast mob they would have their heads smitten from their shoulders. Now, 400 years later, in 1935, would see both of those men being canonized as saints. But there was also another man held there too. At a later date in history, a man called James Scott, the Duke of Monmouth. Now, Great Britain has come to the end of a very long and dismal period in its history under the Puritan leadership of Oliver Cromwell, the Commonwealth. Now, that was our little experiment with republicanism. It didn't work here. We invited a king back onto the throne, Charles II, and all of a sudden Great Britain became a lighter, a happier, a more joyous place to live. Theatres open, dance halls open, gaming houses open, and they even called Charles the Merry Monarch. And in celebration of those carefree days, Charles II himself would have 16 children. However, his wife had none of them. And James Scott, the Duke of Monmouth, was the eldest of these 16 children. Now, when his father died in 1685, he then landed in Lyme Regis in the West Country, saying, I am the eldest boy, so I should be the new king. He moved inland gathering support and it became known as the Monmouth Rebellion. But that revolt was crushed on the 6th of July, James Scott taken to that very tower. But just 3 days later, he was taken out through the jeering crowds, up to that scaffold side up on the hill. Are you getting the hang of this yet? And it was there, upon that hill, he would meet his end under the blade of an axe. But it proved to be a bloody and botched affair. You see, the executor that day was a giant of a man called Jack Ketch. But Jack Ketch was just a part-time executioner. He was a part-time butcher. He was a full-time drunkard. And on this day, he managed to bring all three skills together. Now, as James Scott arrived on that hill on the morning of his execution, he would climb the steps of the scaffold, and there on the platform, he would be greeted by a man that was so drunk he could hardly stand up. Now, begrudgingly, he handed his money in payment to this man and said, "Do your job well." He then laid his head down upon the wooden block. He closed his eyes. He winced and waited. He waited till Jack Ketch had another strong drink of liquor. Jack then picked up the heavy axe. He staggered back and forth a few times. He took the very best aim that he possibly could, and then down came the axe. There was a sickening thud, a crunching of bones, and a gushing of frothy blood. I'll say that again, blood. But not even halfway through that neck. So up and down, up and down, up and down. 5 times in all flew the axe. But the head would remain stubbornly attached. By now, Jack Ketch was exhausted. He threw down the axe, he dropped to his knees, but he drew from his belt a tool of his trade, a sharp carving knife. And then, grasping the head, he commenced to saw his way through the remaining gristle, the sinew, the flesh and bone. But what's strange about this tale is that on this occasion, they brought the body back here to the tower for burial, as was traditional. But 12 hours later, it was followed by the head from the bridge. The head and the body would be reunited in death, stitched back together. After all that trouble. And then he was buried 24 hours later in the Chapel Royal of St. Peter, and I'll show you later where he's buried, and should I forget, remind me. And I'll tell you why that head was stitched back on. Isn't that a terrible story?